Kiyana Lewis from the Fox meteorology team. Kiyana, we see you. Thank you so much for joining us. I
Oh,
know you've been
hi.
listening to us. And just, Kiyana, weigh in on just how the national picture looks with this. And thank you for being with us, Kiyana.
Thanks so much for having us over here at Fox Weather. We always appreciate joining you guys. Yeah, nationally, this is certainly a story I think that's a big topic. You know, Northeast is definitely seeing the brunt of the activity today. But then as we head into even tomorrow and the rest of this week, we start to expand that along the I-95 corridor. So we're going to be watching all things here at Fox Weather from a national scope. And certainly as we're headquartered here in New York with you guys, we're also going to be watching how that impacts us here in New York and across the tri-state too. So I've been watching a couple of the storms. I've been following along with you guys. We have a couple of those severe storms working their way into, say, the spine of New Jersey along the state line between Pennsylvania. Those are going to be big rainmakers. And I'll tell you why, because they're moving into a nice pocket of available moisture. So now as these storms are kind of firing up, you see all of that deep green and that deep blue. Those are going to be the storms that are going to be tapping into that. And they're going to be big rainmakers. I believe that you guys were talking about some of the rainfall rates coming in 1.5, 2 inches an hour. That's going to verify within, say, the next hour to next 2 hours because of all of this available moisture that's lined up across that I-95 corridor.
Kiyana, we know that the system is moving west to east. What are the concerns that you have as far as like the northeast, like just north of us, if it's moving in that direction?
I think as it kind of swings into that direction, we'll have a cold front that continues to trigger. So now we're kind of in the very beginning stages of seeing this unfold. My concern would be certainly as the day goes on and as the rain continues, even to tonight, even through some of the late evening hours, if not overnight hours, flooding is definitely going to be a big issue. We know that we've seen this, the last couple of weeks. At maximum. So if you could think back to those days where we've continuously seen, flooding as a big issue, that's going to be a big part of the story tonight. So if you know that you're in a neighborhood that's prone to flooding, I often think about, I spend a lot of time in Brooklyn. I think about, Bushwick is an area or over towards Bed-Stuy. Those places are going to be places where I want you to kind of think about a plan in the event that these storms move right over the city and they trigger some flooding in your neighborhood.
And particularly, you mentioned low-lying areas, Bushwick, Red Hook, another area
Yeah.
right there, right next to the water as well. Any concerns that you see in regards to tornadic activity, from your radar there? Because we know that we certainly had to deal with that last week in our area.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know that that's a big concern, especially for New Jersey. Today, I don't think today is a big, highly impactful tornado day. Is there a chance that we could see a little bit of spin within some of these storms that are severe? That's always going to be a possibility. But I think today's main and prime focus happens to be the flooding aspect. So I would just definitely, as we go into the rest of today, keep that at the top of your mind. A lot of the times here at Fox Weather, we talk about the different warnings that go up, right? If you're under a flash flood warning, and that's that green box that I have up on the screen right now, you want to think about going upstairs and getting away from low areas in your home. If you're under a tornado warning, that being a red box, and thankfully we don't have any up on the radar right now, that's where you're going downstairs. You're going away from windows, away from, you're going into those interior portions of your home. That's not going to be an issue today, but it does happen to be an issue tomorrow. And from a national scope, we're looking south of the I-95 for New York, and we're looking closer to about South Jersey, Trenton, down towards Philadelphia, and eventually into DC and even the Carolinas. Those are going to be areas that I think have a better chance of seeing a spark in a tornado activity by tomorrow. So today is all flooding. Tomorrow we do heighten that risk for seeing some tornadoes, especially for South Jersey.
Yeah, Kiana, hi, it's Audrey Puente here. Yeah, let's share
Hi.
let's share with the viewers how, last week we saw a lot of videos of people in Queens and Brooklyn, where there was about 2.5 inches, especially in Lower Manhattan. We saw the videos from Soho. 2.5 inches in Soho is way more impactful than the 4 inches I got at the Jersey Shore because of the infrastructure and like how, again, 2 inches in Manhattan is way different than getting four
Sure
inches
is.
in the suburban areas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The infrastructure throughout the city. There's two things that's happening in tandem. The infrastructure is relatively older. So, as we get these more robust storms that move through, I think it's just too much water at one time. And that's a scenario that we certainly can see today. So you think back to Queens, where we had some of that significant flooding last week. You think about an area like Soho or even the subway stations, where too much moisture, too much water can definitely lead to more instances of flooding, flash flooding in the streets. This is happening during a really off time. We get into the evening commute and a lot of, roads are going to be active. I want you to think about those too. Have a backup plan, or maybe if you don't have to head out, maybe not head out today, maybe let these storms kind of pass by before heading into any conditions that could lead you into some flooding.
As far as tomorrow goes, Kiyana, we know that we've been tracking it. We know that we have another day tomorrow. What is your radar system showing how things could potentially look, at least at this hour at 2:37, as we look towards tomorrow?
So as I was looking at tomorrow's threat, a lot of these storms are going to continue to pivot north. We'll have that coastal low that kind of enhances that movement too. So thankfully, it looks like for, New York City, the five boroughs, Long Island, back towards northern New Jersey, we kind of start to see that shift of the flooding shift to the north. And the bigger concern now becomes New England, Connecticut, for example, out towards, say, Massachusetts. Those are going to be the areas that have that level 2 out of 4. We are still in a threat. So given that we have a lot of rain today and a lot of the ground is going to be overly saturated, any big storm tomorrow, even if it doesn't seem big to you, if you're out in the elements, if it's a big rainmaker, that can lead to some flooding. So I won't say we're 100% out of that flooding risk, but it does slim back significantly this time tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with her, because any extra rainfall is only going to exacerbate the flooding that is already
Mhm.
existing across the tri-state
Right.
area. Yeah.
When and before you get away from us, Kiana, we thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah,
Did this storm
absolutely.
follow as you and the team there also predicted that it would go? Did it pretty much stay on track as far as timing, as far as rainfall potential totals, all of that?
I would say we're still in the very early stages, but all signals are kind of pointing to this happening right on time. We did expect to see, some of the heavier showers start to take place right into the early afternoon. We are still in the long haul for this, so I would like to see how things progress going past, say, the evening commute and going through tonight. But as of right now, I can definitely say I think our team is pretty confident in how things have started in terms of being on time.
Kiyana Lewis from the Fox Weather Team, thank you so much for joining us for our coverage of the storm that's moving through our area here.